It's primary day, and Mr. Plattner comes to D.C., plus a new director of national intelligence is named by President Trump. John Solomon is here to break it all down. Welcome to the Sean Spicer Show. Let's get into it. All right, guys, good Tuesday to you. It's odd to say this in June, but it is primary day. That's right. Big deals going on in several states we're keeping our eyes on. There's ones in Montana and New Jersey, but a lot of the focus is going to be on California and to some extent in Iowa. I've got all that for you. John Solomon is here, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about with John. By the way, Trump has named Bill Pulte, the federal housing director, as the new acting director of national intelligence. Today, by the way, Tulsi Gabbard's husband, Abraham, went in for surgery. She posted on social media asking for our thoughts and prayers for Abraham as he deals with this horrible bone cancer that he has been afflicted with. And so our thoughts and prayers are to Abraham, Tulsi, and her family. Let me give you a quick little primary day. And by the way, when in a minute, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Graham Plattner because he's coming to D.C., and I got to imagine, while this was pre-scheduled, this was not the day you wanted to come with all these allegations out about this sexting scandal that he has, and who knows what else is out there. But before I bring in John Solomon, let me just talk to you a little bit about some of these races. In California, this is going to be really interesting. There are, I think, 64 people on the ballot for governor. Now, somebody sent me the primary ballot. I showed it this morning. This is insane. The reason I say that is when you have 64 people running for anything of all parties, and remember, California is a top two system. Everybody runs, top two make it to November. It's impossible to do the polling. So I know a lot of people are like, Javier Becerra's, surging. I don't know that any of this is true. I really don't, because it's impossible to do what they call a screen, which is how do you determine who a likely voter is? And who is that likely voter going to vote for? When you have 64 candidates, independents, whack jobs, Democrats, Republicans, there's one woman that's running as like the MAGA California, like all sorts of whatever. So I'm just telling you, the current polling has Becerra in the lead, Steve Hilton and Tom Steyer kind of in that top three. Remember, top two go on. So there's 4 potential scenarios I see. Scenario 1 is Republicans get 2 candidates in, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco, the Riverside sheriff. I was hoping for this. I thought it was possible a few weeks ago. Who knows? It could still happen. I don't put a lot of stock into it, okay? The scenario number 2 is 2 Democrats win. Becerra, Steyer, there's a few others that are up there as well that are very possible. I think those would be your top 2 likely people after Swalwell dropped out. If that happens, right, we get shut out, they run. I don't know that that's a horrible scenario, though. Those two, tearing the bark off each other for the next several months is not a bad thing. And remember, Steyer's already spent $200 million of his own money. So he'll go after Becerra like you read about. And the establishment's going to get behind Becerra. So, this could be kind of a healthy thing to see these guys whack at each other. Scenario 3 is that Steve Hilton is most likely the Republican that would make the runoff. A lot of people are excited about this. And I don't mean to pour cold water on it, but he can't win statewide. There, I said it. It's not going to happen. He won't have the money, the organization, and it's just an uphill battle in California. If it's a one-on-one race, that's how this thing ends. Some Republicans think it's helpful that he make the runoff because it'll keep turnout good. I'm not sure. As I said, to some degree, I'd rather have 2 Democrats going after each other and make it a food fight than just tagging, getting all behind one Democratic candidate, which would happen. So we'll keep an eye on this. We'll break it down for you tomorrow, but I think this is going to be really important, how polling, how off it potentially is. Then there's obviously this L.A. mayor's race. And here's where this is going to get even trickier. Same scenario there, but different. You've got in the L.A. mayor's race, right, Karen Bass, this council member, Rahman, and then Spencer Pratt. And at least the public polling there, I agree. Same thing that I said about the governor's race. I don't put a lot of stock into it, okay? Just don't. And so because of that, there's, a scenario. Karen Bass is, by all accounts, got enough support to make the runoff. I think we can probably say that she's the incumbent mayor. She was a member of Congress before that. She's got an organization. She'll get the turnout. She's black. There's a huge, huge base of black voters in the Democratic Party and in the overall electorate. So I feel good about saying that she'll be in the runoff. Then the question is, who makes it? Option one, Spencer Pratt, who is technically not party affiliated, but a registered Republican. Kind of silly, but whatever. And then there's this Neetha Rahman, member of council. So they're right in there. I think if it's two Dems, obviously, who knows? There you go. Karen Bass will probably win re-election. Who knows? I'm not enough of a Democratic voter that anyone cares what I think, or I don't know how to analyze that kind of craziness. But I do think if Spencer Pratt wins, it's going to be a really interesting tale because viral videos don't win races. You have to have an organization. You have to have a get out the vote effort. And he's done a great job appealing to a lot of people about the priorities, getting rid of the drugs, getting rid of the homelessness, rebuilding after the Palisades fire. Here he is on Bill Maher talking about Bill Maher's big pet peeve is solar panels. Spencer Pratt really getting to the nut of the situation, though. Take a look.
Solar, something they want you to have.
But now they're taxing you, I think, for having it.
They are?
I think so.
What do you mean you think so? You have
I think,
to know,
I don't need to know about solar,
Okay,
I need to focus on making sure the moms are safe and the animals are not being abused.
If you're the mayor, you are going to have to learn some of these issues more
Solar
intimately.
panels. We're about 3 years from worrying about solar panels. We need to get all the naked drug addicts off of the sidewalks, and then I can worry about solar panels.
You get that? That's right. The bottom line is he's appealing to something that's very unique, which is, do you really care about your solar panels if you got a bunch of homeless people shooting up in your front yard? He's tapping into something that's huge. And I think that's why you've got a lot of these liberal elites that have always been with the Democratic Party suddenly giving him a look. But here's the fundamental problem. That's not the largest voter base right now in LA. You've got a lot of people of color who are traditional solid Democrats that aren't going to go vote for Spencer Pratt because he wants to clean up a bunch of rich neighborhoods in LA. But you're seeing a lot of the Hollywood types saying it's okay. The only problem is the math doesn't math, right? He's got to get enough people, and it's one thing to make a runoff. It's another thing to win the general election. This is going to be a problem. So I think he has a good shot at doing this. But again, there's a big difference between a lot of viral videos that get people fired up and doing enough of an organizational campaign in a place like LA. This isn't a student council election. We'll see. We'll have all of this to break down for you tomorrow. I find this fascinating. In Iowa, though, we've got another big kind of race headed your way. There's a race for governor and a race for the Senate. The race for Senate is getting the most attention because in the governor's race, Trump endorsed Congressman Randy Feenstra. There's a bit of a car crash up there. You've got Zach Lon at 24%, Randy Feenstra at 22%, and Adam Steen at 15%. Look, I think anyone could pull this thing out for governor. It doesn't matter. We'll have a good Republican. But we'll see whether the Trump-endorsed candidate, Congressman Feenstra, pulls this thing out. I guess that he will. I think Trump's record is so solid that it's just going to pull him over the top. And then in the Senate race on the Republican side, current Congresswoman Ashley Hinson is the clear front-runner. She's expected to win. She's raised over $7.2 million, and she's got all the key Iowa endorsements on the right. So Ashley Hinson, I think, will be great. She's got a lot of money. And then on the Dem side, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, there are two guys running. Zach Walz, who's the left-wing Bernie Sanders nutjob progressive that Elizabeth Warren has endorsed. And then you've got Josh Turek, who I say is more moderate, but that's just to be clear, that's in comparison to a complete nut job. He's this Olympic guy that's a state rep. I think Schumer and his team have not technically endorsed him, but sent him money and gotten behind him. They feel a lot better about his chances. And he is currently ahead, at least in the public polling. If Turek wins, we win the race. But if Zach Walz pulls this thing out, the progressive, the guy that's, the Elizabeth Warren candidate, this is a cakewalk for us. And Iowa completely goes off the map. They want this thing to be a lot tighter than it is, but I think Ashley Hinson will take this thing home. Just as an FYI. Again, we will have all of these results for you tomorrow. But without further ado, I want to bring in John Solomon, the editor-in-chief of Just the News. John Solomon, always good to have you back. Look, Jill Biden's on somewhat of a book tour. And the one thing that she hasn't been asked about so far is the Hunter Biden laptop. And I know that you guys at Just the News have this ex-Intel official reporting that Hunter Biden's laptop was, quote, a deception operation. And the Department of Justice, according to your reporting, is probing. Give us the latest on this.
Yeah, so this is an interesting guy. He reached out a few months ago. He is the former chief of analytical intelligence. So his job was to make sure that intelligence agencies across the entire intelligence community did their job right, that they adhered to the standards. This is a guy that knows the standards for every aspect of intelligence, whether it's analytical work or operational work in the field. He rose to the top advisor to the deputy director of National Intelligence under Barack Obama. So his final time in the intelligence community was under Barack Obama. He files a complaint a few months ago with the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community. That's the independent watchdog for the 17 spy agencies that fall under the DNI. And he says, listen, I know analytical tradecraft like very few people do. I know every aspect of it. I studied the Hunter Biden letter written by the 51 so-called intelligence experts, people like John Brennan and Mike Morrell, the deputy CIA director, and it has all the hallmarks of a intelligence deception operation, meaning it looks like it uses the very tactics that are in the U.S. intelligence manual for intentional deception. In other words, what he's alleging is that the intelligence community, these 51 members, use their training, use their skills, use their tactics that they learned in the intelligence community to run a deception operation on the American people. So he files that complaint, and then this past Thursday, he gets a letter back saying, we've accepted the complaint, and it has been, we've made a referral to the Justice Department for further investigation. So pretty significant action by an intelligence agency. A lot of times complaints come in, they just get dismissed. There is no action. In this case, there is a referral to the Justice Department and its chief watchdog.
Okay, so what's next then? I mean, you know, do you get the sense that DOJ is taking this seriously, that there's going to be any repercussions and investigation? That's 51 people to look into.
It is. It's unclear whether the referrals to all 51, whether it's a specific person, if there's some new information. The communication back from the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community very sparse. Just hey, we sent this over to the Justice Department. But I've covered, and you know well as well, Sean, when it is rare for an Inspector General to make a referral to a second Inspector General. So there's probably some merit. There's something that they have found that they believe needs further investigation. Now, one possibility is the intelligence community refers to the Justice Department Inspector General, and the Inspector General there is going to be asked to make a criminal recommendation or not, a determination whether to investigate or open a criminal investigation from there. That's one option. But we don't know much yet. We do know what he alleged, and it's in great detail. When you look at the complaint, which we posted at justthenews.com, he goes step by step through the language and the tactics and how they match the manual of the intelligence community. So there's a very strong factual basis for why he's making this allegation. And of course, his bona fides are pretty strong. But as of yet, the Justice Department's not speaking, and neither is the Intelligence Community Inspector General, other than to say that they sometimes make referrals just like this.
John, you've covered a lot of letters in the past. I've seen them from a staffer in, meaning normally somebody originates it, right? And then calls you, hey, Sean, there's a letter going around. Can we get your name on it? Can we get your boss's name on it?
That's right.
So this is what I'm wondering, and you kind of alluded to this. There's got to be somebody who kicked this all off. And so that's who I got to imagine they're going after, somebody at the top.
We know who that is. We know who kicked it off. We know it's Mike Morrell. The former deputy CIA director. He was interviewed by, first I got his emails showing his organization. Then he was interviewed by the Justice Department. He acknowledged, by the Judiciary Committee, the House Judiciary Committee. He acknowledged that he was asked to do this on behalf of the Biden campaign, that his goal in writing this letter was in hopes that he would defeat Donald Trump and get Joe Biden elected president. So while the tactics all are ripped from the intelligence playbook, according to Thomas Coons, who's the expert, the goal of this letter was to be a electoral interference or electoral impact letter, according to the man who organized it.
I mean, that's what I think the interesting thing about it is that they use their stamp of approval, their good housekeeping security clearance stamp, and say, wow, look at this, right? This is, and they knew otherwise. And that's where I think that, and the media fell for it. Let's be honest.
sure
They're the
did.
other complicit.
Hard and
folks.
fast, they fell for it.
Right. So just based on your experience as an investigative journalist, where do you think this goes?
Well, it could become part of the grand conspiracy case currently being investigated in Fort Pierce, Florida. Why? Because you keep seeing this wash, rinse, repeat cycle where the intelligence and law enforcement community makes an allegation against Donald Trump or makes an allegation or makes an effort to make something look other than what it is. So in 2016, it was designed, the intelligence community tried to make Donald Trump look like he was a stooge of Vladimir Putin in Russia. We now know there wasn't an iota of evidence, according to John Durham, the former special prosecutor who looked at it, to justify that claim or to justify the opening of that investigation. In 2019, we know that there was a legitimate reason to look at Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's relationship with Ukraine, but an impeachment proceeding was opened. And we now know that the person who opened that proceeding in the intelligence community was politically biased. He didn't like Trump and his people. He did not have firsthand knowledge. It was all hearsay. And he made factual mistakes. He was erroneous. That didn't get introduced in the impeachment trial. So President Trump was impeached on potentially false, inaccurate information. In 2020, that case continues to persist. And it's now, because of the discovery of the Hunter Biden laptop, that it's been resurrected. Hey, maybe what was going on in impeachment was legitimate. So the intelligence committee rises once again to try to portray it as something it is. At the time these 51 so-called intelligence experts wrote that letter, that laptop was in the possession of the FBI. It had been authenticated by the FBI. We know that now because of the documents we got. But at the time, the American people didn't know that. And when some of these letter signers were interviewed by Congress, they said, oh, we didn't call the FBI to check. We had no reason to know it was Russia. We just signed the letter. That really looks like an intrusion on the election system, that basically fraud on the election system. And I think if there were to be some sort of a review or an allegation, I think that's what it would be. Did the intelligence community use its standing and its training to pull off a fraud on the American people to change the outcome of the 2020 election? And if it did, does it fit a pattern? They tried to make Donald Trump look like a Russian spy. Then they tried to make him look like he did something corrupt with the Ukrainian leader. They impeached him. Then they tried to pretend that the laptop wouldn't corroborate what President Trump was saying when it did. And then we can go all the way through into the 2020s and Jack Smith, where President Trump, as we know from the documents I published last week, likely had a legal right to possess the classified documents in his Mar-a-Lago home, but they raided it anyways, even though the FBI documents said they didn't have probable cause for the raid. And one of Merrick Garland's top advisors said, hey, he probably declassified these. Did we ever look at that possibility before we raided him? So once again, this wash, rinse, repeat cycle could become a basis for criminal charges down in Fort Pierce with Joe DeGenova and the U.S. Attorney in Miami.
What is Joe DeGeneva's new role? Like, he hasn't gotten a ton of attention. Yeah. President Trump brought him in. What role is he playing?
So first, let's look at his history. He was a U.S. attorney back in the Reagan era. He's the guy that took down Mayor Barry and his administration, a crooked D.C. mayor. He also was key in prosecuting the Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard. Then he was an independent counsel for a corruption investigation, a special counsel for a corruption investigation. So he's one of the few prosecutors I know in the history of the country to hold all three of those senior titles, three most important prosecutorial titles in the field, other than obviously Attorney General, which is a leadership position. He's 80 now, and he's been brought back out of retirement, and he's a special assistant U.S. attorney assigned to the Miami U.S. Attorney's Office, and he's overseeing the weaponization probe down in Fort Pierce, Florida. That's where it's based. That's where a grand jury's looking at evidence. And everything's on the table, from Russia collusion all the way up to Jack Smith and everything that happened in between, including Ukraine.
Jill Biden's out with this brand new book, and I know she's getting a lot of attention for the Biden clip, but She's also talking about the pardon. And I want to play you a clip because President Biden was clear that he wasn't going to pardon Hunter, and then she was asked about it. Let me play the clip for you.
President Biden had said that he would never pardon his son.
He did.
And then he pardoned him. Did you urge the president to think again about that?
Well, you know, Joe said in the beginning, I won't pardon Hunter, I won't pardon Hunter. And then...
And did you say...
And then
Don't
the
say that?
Justice Department changed, and I think that the process was not fair to Hunter.
Okay, so John, two things that I want to ask you.
Yeah.
She says the Justice Department changed.
It didn't.
Nothing had changed at that point. No. Nothing. Secondly, she said the process wasn't fair. Again, when he was asked about it, the process had played through. I feel like we're being gaslit all over again.
Oh, the Biden family is a professional. They ought to get a license for gaslighting. They're so good at it. Listen, it's the same thing, right? All along, if you dared to ask something about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and the grifts that they were running, you were a conspiracy theorist. If you're Hunter Biden, even though you pled guilty in one case and you were convicted by a jury of your peers in the other case, 2 convictions, the only first son in the history of the United States to have two convictions, you're somehow a victim. Somehow your husband's own Justice Department was unfair to you. They changed their position. The only thing that changed is that the evidence came out to prove that what we always said from the beginning when I wrote my first stories about Hunter Biden in March of 2019 at the Hill newspaper, it was all true. So yeah, gaslighting, I think, listen, Jill Biden has a credibility problem with the American public. She stood silent as her husband's mental acuity eroded while he was the most powerful man in the world. She was part of that team that covered up his mental failure, and I don't think the American people take her very seriously when she makes a comment like you just did, particularly when you disassemble the facts.
Is there anything else that has come out in her interviews about this new book that you think warrants further attention between the debate and the pardon?
You know, I think the most important thing is that she gave a little ground. And, you know, in the Biden world, giving a little ground means that there's a lot more to the truth, right? I remember when they finally admitted that Hunter Biden had the relationship with Briesman. He did get paid a significant amount of money. And, yes, Joe Biden did fire the prosecutor, investigate him. It comes in little chunks of truth, and they move the narrative slowly. So when Jill Biden last week said, I think when I was watching my husband on stage in the 2024 presidential debate, I thought he was having a stroke. That was a really significant movement of the family narrative. For the first time, they're starting to lean into the problem that maybe Joe had some medical issues going on. I think that narrative will continue to evolve. Already the people around Joe Biden have all admitted, yeah, he was losing it. The family's been the last one to hold the line that, no, he was just fine. Jill Biden making that move now that he isn't just fine, that he might not have been fine, I think is a significant move towards what all the American people already figured out well before the 2024 election, that Joe Biden was beginning to lose his marbles.
You know what I found fascinating is, and again, this is where Jill Biden gets off the hook all the time without real questions, is she says, just think about this from someone that you care about. If I were watching somebody and I said, wow, I think they're having a stroke, or you were watching somebody that you care about potentially have a stroke, they got off that stage, they went and greeted supporters and then went to a Waffle House.
Yeah.
She never said, can the doctor come over and check them out, right?
That's right.
And I think that he travels. He's the president of the United States. There's always a doctor present. No point does Joe Biden ever say, I asked the physician, the White House doctor who was traveling to come over and just do a quick check to make sure everything was okay. So on the one hand, you're saying that he's potentially having a stroke, and then you're going to go, let's go to a Waffle House.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, again, truth has never been an impediment to the Bidens telling us a story, and I think Jill Biden is part of that machinery now. We can see it with our own eyes. We can hear it with our own ears. She's part of the cover-up. She continues to obfuscate. She continues to make bogus excuses. And I think the Biden family's legacy will be that Joe Biden will go down as one of the most dishonest presidents, that he did not tell us the truth about anything, whether it was Afghanistan, where he said it was an orderly withdrawal when it wasn't, or when he tried to tell us that the border was closed when it was wide open, or when he and his family said he was mentally fine when he wasn't, or when he and his son tried to claim that there wasn't some sort of a foreign grift going on and that he didn't get China money when in fact the family did get China money and that Joe Biden was meeting it. I mean, he will go down factually as one of the most dishonest presidents when it comes to really critical issues that the American people deserve. And listen, every politician lies, every politician fudges the truth, but they're expected on big issues to make sure that they level with the American people. And I think Joe Biden will have failed that test more than he even failed his cognitive tests.
John, yesterday I had Teddy Daniels on, who is the Afghanistan war veteran, Purple Heart recipient, who Graham Plattner besmirched, demeaned, whatever word you think is appropriate. I got to believe that Graham Plattner's or his wife's admission that there were texts, that there's going to be more stuff coming out.
Yeah.
What do you, I mean, you guys are always at the tip of the sphere when it comes to this kind of stuff. What are you hearing about what else is out there with Graham Plattner?
To be determined. There's some things that we are looking at. I don't think we've nailed the factual basis for them yet. But I don't think the issue of his conduct with women is fully vetted yet. And I think that will be a really significant line of inquiry going forward. We'll see what that looks like, just how far down the path. And I think another thing is how much has his campaign known before they portrayed him the way they have, as this guy that is worthy of Congress, when in fact they may have known from the beginning he has a lot of baggage. And so the knowing what the campaign knew is often something that becomes very important, much like the Gary Hart episode in 1987, where clearly the campaign knew he was having an affair, but they tried to hide it and then challenged the media to find it, and the media found it. So I think we will learn more. I think there's more vetting to be done. This year of candidates, what's really interesting about the Democratic Party is that they are willing to appease their base to put out highly flawed candidates that have enormous Achilles heels. And that doesn't bother them, maybe because they were able to get Mamdani elected in New York, despite the fact that he was a socialist trying to run the capital city of New York. Maybe they're more emboldened, but I think the storyline of the 26th election going into the fall is there are radically extremist and highly flawed candidates running for some of the most sensitive and competitive races in 2026, and they're right now all on the Democrat side.
You've covered races for a long time in your career. I do think that point needs to get explored. I mean, this isn't one Achilles heel. This isn't one story. No. Between Graham Plattner, you've got the Nazi tattoo, the disparaging remarks about veterans, the disparaging remark about women, the disparaging remark about blacks. I can't believe the extent to which Democrats not only are overlooking it, John, but they're, quote, saying, like as Ro Khanna did over the weekend, I'm excited to go campaign for this guy. Yeah. They're not just tolerating him, they're embracing him.
Well, it is who the party embraces today. They are much more in love with a gang-banging member who illegally entered the country and might have been involved in human trafficking than they are for the ICE agents who lawfully are trying to enforce the law in America. They are for the Palestinian and Iranian terrorists more than they are for the American soldier. They are for the open border and more concerned about those who illegally cross our border than those who were victimized by the villains who crossed our border. They are more concerned about making sure a person who can't speak English and may not even be able to read English signs gets a commercial driver's license, either to drive a bus or to drive a truck, than they are about the people who are killed because that person isn't qualified to have a CDL or shouldn't be qualified to have a CDL. The Democratic Party has turned all realities on their head, and what's up is now down. What is common sense is now fantasy, and what used to be fantasy is now common sense. The Democratic Party literally is living in an alternate world to where most Americans live. We know when we saw the border it was open. They told us it wasn't. We know that we don't like our candidates to be wearing Nazi tattoos. They nominated one. You just continue to watch this party, and it is either going to ruin this country, should it get into control, or it's going to run into an extraordinary cliff, much like Wile E. Coyote, and go over the side. We'll see which one it is. I think the American voters have a very distinctive choice in the fall about whether this is the election they repudiate what many polls show is insanity to the American people. The American people believe in voter ID, the Democrats do. The American people believe in a secure border, the Democrats don't. The American people believe in law and order, Democrats are trying to eviscerate it. And I think that this is the election that the American people, if they want to stop this crazy leftward fantasy land that's going on in the Democratic Party, this is the election that they can potentially deliver a big blow. If not, this is going to become the norm, and it's going to be a very uncomfortable America going forward.
Yeah. Congress has returned, and there's a lot that they left on the table and undone, including the immigration enforcement package, the 702 foreign intelligence surveillance, the FISA. Where do you give us a lay of the land on like what's going to get done between now and say when they bolt town for the election, and where things stand?
Listen, they're going to have to do something to at least nod at the extraordinary spending issues that are there. I mean, we're heading towards $2 to $3 trillion deficit this year, and we're not in the middle of a pandemic. And of course, the president and the Republicans eviscerated Democrats for their reckless, drunken spending. So what they're going to have to do is reclaim. There's a lot of savings going on. Every cabinet secretary is finding a $10 billion fraud here, a $15 billion wasteful grant there. So they're rolling them in. That money needs to be reclaimed to bring down the deficit. I think that would be a major statement to the American people before the election. They're going to have to do something to address President Trump's election security concerns. I think there will be some bombshell revelations in the next few weeks from Tulsi Gabbard and others about election interference that we were kept in the dark about, 2022, 24, significant, serious stuff. And I think that could renew the debate. Maybe there'll be some senators who find out, hey, your state was hacked by a foreign power and you weren't told for 6 years. Maybe that changes your thinking about the Save America Act and voter ID and a citizenship check. But I think that's an important one that's going to have to get through. They are going to have to do something on FISA. It's a 45-day window. I think a rubber stamp probably isn't the sort of thing that's going to get their base happy. So there'll be some reform efforts. I think they were very close at some legitimate reforms, but it got hung up on an unrelated issue that got tied to it. Hopefully those issues get resolved and there's some FISA reform. And then I think they've got to continue to set in motion a long-term play for border security so that a future Democratic administration has a much higher hurdle should they ever dare think about reopening that border and wreaking the havoc that Joe Biden wreaked on American civilians in every state in this country.
You think Tulsi's going to go out with a bang, making sure that before she leaves office at the end of the month, going to give us a lot of insight into things that we don't know yet?
There'll be some. Yeah, I mean, some are already in the process, things that I've requested. The most important, I think, will be the 18 states that I believe may have been hacked, had their voter registration databases hacked by China. If that number turns out to be true and we get the identity of the states, you have to ask yourself, how could the intelligence community, the FBI, the Homeland Security Department, not tell us about that and then tell us in December 2020 it was the most secure election when we had one of the biggest breaches of election data in American history. So the cover-up, the accountability for the intelligence community, I think gets hotter and heavier this summer. I think that's something for sure that she's going to be able to get declassified. I think the other thing that's going on behind the scenes, Sean, is that the president is rewiring the way that information will get declassified for things that should have been declassified a long time ago. What's happened is the traditional way, and you know this from having been in government, is you ask the agency to do it, and then maybe they do it. Most of the time they don't do it, or they give you a lip service. They don't really give you the good stuff. And that goes on for years. There are still bombshell revelations about Crossfire Hurricane. Like, how's that possible? We've had 2 special counsels, 8 congressional investigations, several declassifications. I'm telling you from my reporting, there are new bombshells to come out this summer and fall about Crossfire Hurricane, including the use of foreign intelligence to spy on and potentially set up President Trump for Crossfire Hurricane. That has stayed a secret for 11 years. Why? Because at the end of the day, If you leave the deep state and the bureaucrats in these agencies to declassify, their propensity is to not give you very much. So what's happening now is the president's rewiring that system and allowing documents to come into the White House for review and be declassified there. That will potentially speed up, and we're going to get some secrets like we probably haven't seen in a long time.
Oh, what a tease. John Solomon, as always, thank you for being with us. I'm excited for our next one. Thanks,
John. Good to be with you. Love your show.
Thank you. All right, I get so excited every time John comes on, and when he teases you with these, here's what's coming up, you always know that he's going to be right. That's the thing about John Solomon and the investigations at Just the News. I love following them. I love following him and Just the News because they're always one step ahead. And so when he teases, we think there'll be more coming out in the next few weeks. There'll be more coming out in the next few weeks. His record, by the way, it's funny. I always say a lot of these reporters are like weathermen. They get up, they say something, and then it never happens, and they never get held accountable. Conversely, when you look at Just the News and John Solomon, when they predict things that are going to happen, they happen. It's just the great thing. But I said it at the beginning of the show. I'll just, again, reiterate. Graham Plattner, who we talked about yesterday, who is completely scandal-plagued on like 10 fronts, is in D.C. today, meeting with Democrats. And look, if you heard the conversation with Chris Wilson yesterday, you know that voters are willing to overlook a lot of scandals now. They overlook Jay Jones in Virginia saying, I wanted to kill my opponent and his kids. That used to be disqualified. The Graham Plattner thing on like 18 fronts is disqualified. But voters right now on the left are willing to say, I will take whatever as long as we can get back into power. And it was unbelievable today. The number of people on the Dem side, I want to pull up this tweet that was so telling by some of these Dems when it comes to what their ultimate goal is. And that's what I think is not getting enough attention. This is what I said. This is State Senator Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada. She said, I've heard some of my colleagues' concerns about what we've read in the papers. Yeah, Senator, no one's reading papers anymore. But anyway, I digress. But at the end of the day, we've got to win. That's what she said about Graham Plattner. They don't care. And this is Ruben Gallego of Arizona. He said, we know at this point this man can still win the race. And as long as he continues, I think we'll be there. In other words, Democrats don't care how scandal-plagued the guy is, who he's offended, the crazy stuff that he said, as long as he can win. They'll take out Susan Collins, which is somebody that they frankly love to work with. But until they realize that, wait, we might be able to get power back, they don't care anymore. This is Congressman Jake Auchincloss from Massachusetts, though, being it very clear that he has a line that Plattner's crossed. Take a look.
So no weighing in on Graham Plattner?
I've been clear about Graham Plattner. I find that tattoo and his commentary about it to be personally disqualifying. I hope Maine voters agree with me. I think that it would be a mistake for the Democratic Party to think that Graham Plattner's brand of the Democratic Party is what wins us durable majorities throughout this country.
Okay, by the way, you love the CNN host trying to give him an out. No comment, right? He wanted to, hey, I'm helping you, but I'll give him credit. Jake Auchincloss actually served in the Marine Corps, and I think he's got a line. John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, the senator there, said, the guy's going to win the primary in Maine. He's a Nazi tattoo on his chest, and that's no problem for a lot of voters, so I don't know why that's crazy. You've got a lot of these Dems that are starting to stick out. But even former Senator Barbara Boxer, California, said, the truth is the truth. This is extremely offensive. It's ugly, and I feel terrible for his wife. That's about the offensive tweets that the guy sent out. I mean, it is unbelievable. And then Sonny Hostin of The View shredded this guy. Take a listen.
This man should be nowhere near Congress. We've already got a wealth of people we need out. Yeah. We're not sending one like this in.
Yeah, I am conflicted.
Thank you.
I am conflicted. They asked Cory Booker how he felt about this, because I think all the allegations are true. The sexting with other women while married is definitely true, because his wife is the person that gave the messages to his campaign to give them a heads up. Yeah. So the fact now that he's saying that part is not true.
I think she said that she told them
campaign.
But we haven't seen messages.
But she disclosed it.
Right. Yeah,
so why would she lie about that? So that part is true. He's also made racist remarks about against African Americans. So he's a cheater. He's an anti-Semite, because the fact that he had that tattoo for 20 years and didn't know what it was is a lie. So he's a liar, a racist, an anti-Semite.
Homophobe.
He's a homophobe.
Okay, just to be clear, you just heard that list from Sonny Hostin. He's a liar, he's a homophobe, he's a racist, right? I could go on. She then endorsed him. She endorsed him. This is where we are in the Democratic Party. She just listed off what a horrible person is, and then 24 hours later said, yeah, I'm still with the guy. That's the Democratic Party of today, folks. They're willing to overlook all of that in pursuit of power. I want to be clear. It will be interesting to see some of these Democrats' reactions today, because here's the thing. His story is falling apart. He's a liar, right? So first of all, what do those texts show? You saw Ana Navarro try to come to the rescue. Oh, we haven't seen the text. I have a feeling that they're not too good. And I also think there's a lot more. Where there's smoke, there's fire. The campaign saying, oh, it's only 6 women that he was texting with. Oh, that makes it better? Not the 10 that we originally reported. What did they say? What do those women say? What else is coming? But here's the thing. Graham Plattner is a phony. He says he's an oyster farmer. Here's the deal. His income is now revealed in a disclosure form. He got his money through his disability. The oysters that he, quote, farmed, he gives to his mother's restaurant. That's a hobby. The VA loan that he said that he used to start everything was actually a loan from his dad. He lied about that. He is a phony. He is a liar. He is a racist. He's a homophobe. I mean, like all the stuff that Sonny Hostin said. And I have a feeling that there's a big concern among Democratic senators that we're wrapping around ourselves we're wrapping ourselves around in this guy's campaign, and he's going to betray us. Janet Mills, the current governor that suspended her campaign, came out yesterday and said, hey, just a reminder, I only suspended my campaign. I'm still on the ballot, making it very clear, I'm here. If you guys want me, you can still use me. And I'm just telling you, that's a big sign. I have a feeling over the next few weeks, you're going to see a lot of these folks say, we need to get Janet Mills actively back into the campaign because we don't want to get saddled with this Graham Plattner guy. Drip, drip, drip. Trust me when I tell you, more is coming your way. It is unbelievable. So I just keep an eye on this race. A lot more to coming. As I said, tomorrow we're going to break down all of these primary results. One last thing. I said this, we are in the final few days. If you are interested in getting a signed, personalized copy of Trump 2.0, this is your last few days to do it. I do not want to keep, I love doing it, but I just want to make sure I can get them out the door before Father's Day. If you have it, you want it for another reason, again, it doesn't matter. Go to SeanSpicer.com, go to the books tab, buy Trump 2.0, and then send us a message at contact@SeanSpicer.com with what you want the inscription to be. This is not a book, by the way. Just write, Happy Father's Day, Dad, or, something like that. Happy Birthday, Joe, whatever you want. And we'll send them out to you in the next week, hopefully in plenty of time to get there for Father's Day. But this is just for another few days. If you're interested in doing that, I've got a brand new newsletter out at SeanSpicer.com. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow on The Sean Spicer Show.